CrossFit is a training methodology. It's not, it became a sport, but this whole thing started as, a really great way to get as fit as possible.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Full Send Podcast. I'm alongside Monroe Miller.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
So, man, I just got back from Park City, which is ironic because you're headed where this weekend?
Park City.
Okay, so for the folks out there, I enjoy snowboarding, and my question right before this, I looked at Monroe, and I was like, hey, how long have you been snowboarding for? And he looks back at me and he says...
No, I don't snowboard.
Yeah, I made this sick assumption that just because I snowboard that everybody else also snowboards, man. So are you a skier in the past?
Well, yeah, so I actually have a really bad story about snowboarding.
Let's tell the story.
So I've only been skiing, I think 2 or 3 times. I was in the Boy Scouts for a while. Yeah. And we would go to Timberline. It was like our annual ski trip.
Okay. This was in the northeast, or was that here?
I think that was here. Is
okay.
Timberline around here?
Man, I don't know. I've never been snowboarding over here on the east side, Michigan and Utah exclusively. Oh, I've been to British Columbia, Canada as well. But yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was when I first moved here when I was younger. But
okay, I follow you.
But yeah, I the second time, I was with a bunch of other Boy Scouts, so I was trying to I'll go with the guys that were going snowboarding. I was like, I'm gonna do it this year. Rented a snowboard, first time down the mountain, fell halfway down. Sat on it like a sled and rode the rest of the way down, traded in for skis, and then...
Had you skied prior to that experience?
Yeah, so I'd skied twice. I'd skied the 2 years before, and I was like, oh man, I'm good at skiing, I'm going to try snowboarding now. And it was just a disaster. So
snowboarding is one of the hardest things that it took to kind of get a hold of. I mean, you pretty much just have to be okay with just falling for a couple of hours. For most people, some people it even takes days, and then there are others where they're just like, this is just not for me, and they'll trade it in for skis.
That was my experience.
Yeah, I've done both, and I do think skiing at least is easier in the beginning for most people. You excited about the trip?
I'm stoked. Morgan's never been skiing before, and she's absolutely terrified, so...
This is one of those great things where you get to take on fear and do the things that scare you the most. Morgan, you're going to have a lovely time if you're going to be listening to this podcast here. All right, man, so let's dive in. We get to talk about training, competing, practicing, and what the difference is between the three. We get to talk about my experience with everything and my transition probably over the last year or so, and basically how to improve yourself as a CrossFit athlete. I mean, I think this really plays into this, and telling the difference between these things, I think, is really key, at least in developing skill sets, working on Olympic weightlifting and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. So first, let's just go into, I just want you to kind of describe maybe each competing, training, practicing, maybe some of the differences between the two. But when you hear that stuff, what do you think of, man?
So starting with practice, whenever I talk about practice, I'm thinking about skill development, skill acquisition, more neurological training, right? Double unders, trying to get your brain to tell your body what to do. So that's what I think about with practice, and a lot of times that needs to be done not against a clock, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important to train skills under fatigue, and that's, can be practice as well, but not, when you're doing your 20-minute AMRAP for the week or whatever. So. Yeah,
I think it was Rich who made EMOMing everything relatively well known, because that's kind of how he would practice and do all that stuff. Yeah. Do you suggest an EMOM type of clock when you're practicing different stuff, or you just think, hey, nope, I'm just going to do 5 sets, I'm going to do 1 attempt on the rings here, and then I'm going to rest for a minute or 2 and then go again? I
mean, I think it depends. I think it depends on where you're at with something. Like with a ring muscle up, I think it's more important to... you don't want to practice failing. You don't want to practice missing. So as long as your practice is good and you're not, oh man, I got to go, and you're not really focused for the next rep because you're on the minute, then I would say no. But I love 10-minute on the minute. You do that, pick a day, and every week add whatever it is. That's great for handstand walk. Do 10 feet every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. Next week, do 15 feet. You will get better. So I love the EMOM. Yeah,
there's some personalized programming from Coach Monroe Miller himself there, guys. All right, EMOM 10, do a little bit, make sure you have a little bit of rest, repeat, and then add a little bit more each week that you guys are going to take that on. Talk to me about competing versus training a little bit.
So training should be the work that you do in order to be your best when you're competing. At least that's the way I think about it. I think that sometimes people mix the two, especially in class.
Yeah.
And training I see as more focused, and you have a plan. You're going into a workout deciding, this is what I'm going to focus on, this is what I'm going to get better at, this is how I'm trying to improve today with this specific piece. And competing is more, what do you got? Time to show up and see who can just kind of turn on the gas the most.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me, at least from a broad standpoint, is that you don't have to go 100% all the time within workouts, and in my opinion, you shouldn't. I think that leads to a lot of bad movement, and I've certainly done that in the past, right? Where I'm like, I gotta beat Monroe's time here today, or if I have a possibility to beat somebody or go just a little bit more, it's kind of incredible what that does for you, and that's not always a great thing. And I think you can also practice within a WOD, especially the stuff that you're not good at,
for sure.
Where you're taking more time in between there, or you're going 70% effort so that you can have a little bit more time to focus on your kipping pull-up or your handstand push-up or whatever that's going to be. But I think it's really hard for people to kind of discern between the two and honestly kind of hit the brakes sometimes, when you're doing that stuff. We did a workout yesterday that absolutely thrashed me. That was the worst I felt in a long time. And then we had thrusters. We had a strength portion afterwards, and I was just like, I've had enough for my training for today. I don't need to lift something else heavy. And then I just went and I stretched, and that was really nice as well. So bringing up probably one of the biggest topics that we have right now within the CrossFit world is Matt Fraser is retiring, at least for now, from the competition stage. Do you think that's because of eventually on the individual stage, maybe even the team stage, that you just eventually get burnt out from competing?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, we saw that with Rich. I think it depends on what the sport is to what your longevity can be in it. Will we see somebody win 5 titles again? I don't know. That's a lot for to be. And it's not so much the physical side, and this is what Rich talked about when he was retiring. It's not the physical side, it's the mental edge, and it's like the desire to want to destroy yourself in training in order to win on the competition floor.
Yeah, it is so much work. And I think about other athletes like Tom Brady, for example. Been doing what he's doing for over 20 years, and 50% of his entire career he spent it in the Super Bowl, which is absolutely incredible. And you and I were talking about this yesterday. That is something I don't think we're not in our lifetime that we're ever going to see again. But I think about the strain that Tom Brady's body has taken in comparison to maybe a Matt Fraser and a Rich Froning. I want to say it's not as much. That said, he does get tackled for a living. But, he's not sitting in the gym, and it's not to say he doesn't work hard, but the level of intensity that a Matt Fraser is at for 6 to 8 hours a day, maybe more sometimes, that he's got to put his body through almost 365 days out of the year, that's tough, dude.
For sure. And like what you were saying with intensity, that's when your CNS starts to kind of get worn, and that's when injury goes up. You have trouble recovering, your hormones get all jacked up. So, yeah, I think that competing is important, but to spend your whole life competing, or, every day when you walk into class, you're always just trying to beat the person next to you, I think that can wear on you internally, mentally, and physically.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly why we see Matt Fraser kind of bringing his career, at least as far as an individual, kind of to an end. I mean, he's always going to be around the sport, and he's going to be a legend. He is a legend. He's fantastic. Yeah. Kind of diving into that a little bit, you also don't have to be a Matt Fraser to feel like that within the gym, and I've certainly felt like that kind of within the past year or so. Came from a gym where I was the best male athlete, at least within their smaller gym and everything like that. Came over here, and we do have a group of gentlemen here that are, excuse me, that are fantastic as far as their CrossFit fitness. And I can count the number of times that I've won a workout within the gym on one hand, right? my goals in life have also just completely shifted, right? I'm engaged now. I'm going to be married in June. We want to build a family, and my number one career objective is to be the best possible IT recruiter that I can possibly be. It is not to be the best possible CrossFit athlete that I can be, but that shift, because I also like to win, right?
Yeah.
I think we all do in some respect.
And I think that competing to a point is good, but if you take it beyond that, that's when it gets to be dangerous and detrimental to your health and fitness.
Yeah.
But I just did a workout in the noon class, and I was competing sort of with Amy. It's like we weren't doing the same weights. It wasn't like that, but
Oh, was she close to you?
Yeah, well, she was ahead of me, and I was trying to get it was just every time I'm just trying to get off the rower. I'm trying to beat her off the rower the whole workout because she got off first.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't matter if it's, the girls are doing 250 and the guys are doing 300. It's like, I'm trying to chase her down, and you can feel that push between the other person, and I'm sure she got a great workout out of it too.
Yeah,
so.
And it's amazing. And I'm going to say there are a lot more benefits to having people next to you than there are just working out alone, right? From a camaraderie standpoint, if you're struggling, you get other people to go in there with you. But there is, excuse me, guys, there is something to be said just about when you have somebody next to you, whether the weight's different, but if they're next to you and it's close, there's that killer instinct inside you that you're like, I've got to go rep to rep here
for sure
with Amy or whoever else it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's that is the reason that people get really fit in a gym like this, is because there is that competitive nature about it, and as long as it's lighthearted and you're not competing to the point where you're starting the workout just trying to hit the gas at 100% and break yourself, I don't think that's necessarily smart.
Yeah.
But
yep, and this just kind of plays into kind of what your goals are, and I'm going to say in the broad scope of life and not just specifically within the gym, right? I think we got to look at stuff like this a lot more long-term than we typically do,
Sure.
Sometimes I want to get a pull-up, but that might take you 3 to 6 months or something like that. For me, at least now, it's just I just want to be healthy. I really want to have fun when I come into the gym, and even sometimes that's hard because I want to be better than what I was, a year ago. But I don't know, I may never snatch 225 pounds. I'm optimistic about that, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But that doesn't have any sort of outcome on how healthy I'm going to be, whether I'm snatching 165 pounds or I'm snatching 225. It doesn't really matter.
Right, and you could hit that snatch in 3 years.
Yeah.
Does that make it any less valuable that, it took you that long to get there? No. It's about the journey. It's not about the result.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know how difficult that is for people to kind of maybe wrap your mind around, or you have some expectation of yourself and where you want to be kind of in this moment and everything like that. But, take a step back and just kind of get a greater understanding of okay, again, my number one goal in life, be the best IT recruiter that I can be, and in front of that is be a really good husband here and father here that's going to be in the future and everything like that. All right, man. So with that, how often should we be competing? I mean, should we be coming into the gym and be all right, I'm going 100% every single day? What are your thoughts on that?
So I would say once a week, you should really push yourself. And when we're saying competing, there's a competing at the level where you're leaving your gym and you're going to do a competition, or you're going and signing up for something and you're competing in that manner. And I think in that sense, you're going to push yourself harder than you would if you're competing in class. But I think you should, once a week, compete with yourself, to the max, and see what you're capable of. We've talked about this before, where it's if you don't know where that red line is and you don't know, how hard you can push it, then you don't really know how to pace from there. And when we talk about, hey, you probably shouldn't go out at 100%. Well, if you've never gone 100%, then you don't know what 85% of the workout at 85% is.
Right.
And there's kind of I would say it's a progression, and you need to get some coaching, but there is definitely a time when I think it's important to push yourself 100%. And depending on, like we said, what your goals are, that should be more frequent or less frequent.
Yeah, I think maybe for the average person, that's probably less frequent than what they think. I think we come into the gym, we have this expectation. It's all right, I've got to really work my tail off in my burpees and my overhead squats today. And something that I've done recently that I've actually really enjoyed is there will be days that I'll come in here and Yeah, I go about 70% effort, right? The heart rate still gets up and I'm sweating, but I end up moving a lot better. And something that I struggle with as well is like when I go way too hard, I have a harder time actually getting back into work, just from a mental standpoint, in a physical standpoint. And again, that's my number one goal and objective in order to support my family and do what I got to do. And like, I can't always go there because I don't want to feel like crap afterwards, so that I can actually focus on the stuff that is really important within my life. Right?
For sure. So I have a question for you. How would you, if you have an issue with always trying to compete, this wasn't on our question list, but what would you do, or how would you coach someone to, I guess, dial it back without feeling like they're not doing enough? You know, because when people start competing and they start getting into it, it's like they want to push themselves 100% all the time, and work as hard as you can, but like there's that line where it's like, dude, you're just trying to break yourself right now. You know, you're going too fast.
Yeah, I think it just starts with questions, and it just comes down to just asking them, you know, like what are you trying to accomplish within this gym session? Like, seriously, right?
You trying to be the best at working out?
Yeah, I mean, so it can be that, right? I mean, I don't know what the reason could be. Maybe somebody like me, like over the weekend, right? I was in Utah, ate like crap the entire time, came back, and I'm like, well, I'm paying for it from last week. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it could be maybe what's within their head. So you want to ask questions about that, and you just want to be like, okay, you know, Monroe, like let's say it's post-workout, like, and you weren't happy with it and you're dying. It's like, well, what were you trying to accomplish today, bro? Well, I just wanted to go 100%, you know, for my burpees and overhead squats today, or my rowing, and everything else. And then it's like, okay, like why? What makes you want to be able to do stuff like that? And right. And you just kind of push a little bit farther. And if it is, well, once a week, I want to give 100% effort to be able to do this in preparation for the Open, so that I finish in the 95th percentile instead of the 90th percentile. I think that's totally fine. Right. If I go back and I ask myself those questions, and I look at that from a competing standpoint, I'm like, well, Brandon, like, why did you go, you know, balls to the wall on a Tuesday when you have a call at 2:00 and it's currently 1:00 right now? Right. And I'm going to be like, well, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to go and do that, right? And it's like, okay, well, Brandon, remind me, like, what's your number one goal in life as far as your objectives go? And it's to, you know, be the best possible IT recruiter that I can possibly be in order to provide for my family and live a long, healthy life. And going 100% all the time is not in line with that, right? So you just got to ask questions, and you got to be able to really kind of look at your life and be able to identify that, right? And the thing about most people here within Verity Speed and Strength is their number one goal is never going to be, you know, I'm going to be the best CrossFitter that I can possibly be. It's going to be in something else.
Fitness and health.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about just everybody's goals is not going to be always to be the best CrossFitter, right? It's going to be long, healthy life ultimately for almost everybody within here. I'm going to say everybody right now, minus maybe Patrick Long, and that's probably it. Right.
Yeah, and you know, CrossFit is a training methodology. You know, it's not. It became a sport, but this whole thing started as, you know, a really great way to get as fit as possible. You know, we define fitness as being able to have a wide variety of skills and be able to do everything, you know, master of everything, jack of all trades, master of none. You know, and it's about that. It's about making yourself fitter, faster, stronger, healthier. You know, it's not about being the best, and it's not about, you know, trying to get to the next level in a sport. You know, like you said, most of us, we're
professionals in something else, right?
Sure.
We're not professionals in CrossFit, and that's perfectly okay. And that also doesn't mean you can't. Something that I really love about CrossFit is you do have benchmarks, and you can see progress over time and everything like that, right? Now, for somebody like me, it's kind of different to where, like, I put in a lot more time into this stuff 18 months ago than I do now. And so now I'm kind of at a weird point where it's like, you know, I don't see a ton of PRs and everything like that, as opposed to what I used to in the past. But that's also perfectly okay. I have been able to maintain my strength, and I actually have increased some benchmarks. Fran, for example, retesting some of the open workouts from the past and everything like that. But you might reach a point where it's like, look, I'm also getting older as well, right? I'm turning 30 this year and everything like that. And that's perfectly okay if you're not hitting PRs or anything like that all the time. Things change as time goes on.
Yeah, I had to, you know, kind of talk to Morgan about this a couple weeks ago. You know, she was like, why don't you want to, like, she was like, oh, did you hit a PR today? I was like, oh, no, I wasn't really feeling like whatever. Like, you know, I don't really care. And she was like, well, that's not a very good attitude. Like,
it's just different.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, like where you're at versus like where I've been, it's like the amount of effort, I don't want to put it like that. The amount of
maybe time.
Yeah. The amount of time and the amount of like, and I hate saying sacrifice, but like the amount of things that I would have to give up that I'm not willing to, like this podcast, like all of the video stuff, like working with new people, trying to grow the gym, trying to, play with my kids, like all that stuff. I'm just not willing to give up that time in order to spend it in a squat rack. And
yeah, that's a great point.
And especially it's like, once I don't want to say I've like, oh man, I could never hit a PR squat. It's just the amount of work it would take to do it just isn't worth it anymore.
No, I totally understand that. And we've talked about this at length and sometimes on the podcast. We've only got a finite time, in the day. I wish that I could get like my Wednesday to be 40 hours long sometimes. Then maybe we could work on that squat or the snatch on a weekly basis. But it's just it's not reality, right? Yep. And when I boil down this stuff that's really important to me, the amount of time that I'm willing to put into CrossFit, especially now, it's like 4 or 5 times a week. It's an hour, and like that's it. And that's just to be able to maintain health, to look decent and be able to do stuff, kind of well into old age and everything.
That's
and I'm
all
not.
You need.
Yeah, exactly, right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm like, I don't want to give up time with my significant other, right? Yeah. I don't want to give up time on the weekends. I'd rather read in the evening. I'd rather put more work into what's going to produce money for me as opposed to I don't know, physical success and that stuff as well, right? It just changes and it's different for everybody. PRs are great for some people, but I think you and I are in the same boat, or at least now, where it's like, don't really care if I'm, back squatted today and I was 40 pounds off my PR, and I was like, it was a pretty good back squat though. I moved well, it went up fast, and it felt good, and that's perfectly okay too.
Yep. No, I mean, I was talking with Kenta this past weekend. Like I hit a couple weights that I haven't hit in a while, and it was like, oh, well,
awesome.
why didn't you go up? And it's like, oh, well, I only want to hit weights that feel good. It's like I have no desire to make myself like really push myself to the limit and dive under something crazy heavy if it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
If it feels good, like hell yeah, I'm gonna push myself as hard as I can.
Yeah, and the opportunity here to like get hurt is just so not worth it to me. And today on the squat rack, I had 350 on there after just hitting 335. And I got off, it felt really heavy, and I didn't even try to squat it. I was just like, 335 is good for me today. Yep. I was like, that is fine. And walked away smiling, and it was a good day for me. That's perfectly okay.
Yeah, and you'll probably get more from that training than pushing yourself to failure all the time.
Yeah.
And that's something I see. And when you're a newer lifter and newer to CrossFit, I think that, failing is how you learn, and it's important. But, you've been doing this for years. It's like you coming in here and just pushing yourself to failure every single day, like you're asking yourself for injury. Yeah.
And it's like, dude, this is fun too. I mean, this is an opportunity where you get to put your phone away for an entire hour and you just get to be with people. And especially in light of a pandemic and everything that was going on for a long time, where, we had to be at home for a long time and we couldn't, socialize, do all that stuff. This is kind of a rare space here where you get to do that. And like, to me, man, I need, interaction with others and everything like that. And Verity Speed and Strength is a perfect opportunity to be able to do that, right? Yeah. So, in my opinion, you should be enjoying this stuff, enjoy being with others, and don't be so focused on, making sure you're hitting a PR every single week and everything like that.
I mean, we say fitness, friends, and fun. I want you to make some friends. I want you to get fitter, and I want you to have fun doing it. If it's not fun, like, what's the point? If your goal is to get somewhere and you got to do a bunch of stuff that's not fun, okay, I understand that. But, I think people see people with that goal and they see themselves and they're like, oh, well, if I want to get to my goals, then I need to not have fun and I need to kill myself in the gym and I need to really make it hurt in order to, it's just like, it's the same thing that, I hear other business coaches talking. It's like, it's not about, the grind. It's like, yeah, you need to work really hard. You need to work harder than everybody else. But there's also a point where it's like, you got to sleep 7-8 hours a night. You gotta work out. You gotta take care of yourself, and that'll help you be better in the other areas of your life. Yeah. And if you're just punishing yourself, whether it's in the gym or with work or whatever, like, I just think that it's a recipe for disaster after a while.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's recap this just a little bit, guys. So training versus competing again, right? So we said that once a week, you could pick out the day, or maybe you just walk into the day and you feel good and you're like, all right, today's going to be my day where I'm going 100% within this workout today, whatever that may be, okay? You don't have to do it all the time, and I think for the majority of people, it's going to be a lot less. And I think the biggest thing to kind of understand here for most of us within the gym is just to understand why you're coming here, right? For me, again, this is just to be healthy so that I can live a long, happy life with my family. Ultimately, on the sport side of things, right, this is a recent thing where I really love to golf, and so everything that I'm doing in here is just in an effort to be a better golfer. Like this year, shooting like, mid-90s, and this year I'd like to be closer to 90 or so, right? And it translates really well because when I'm doing Olympic lifts, I have a lot of problems keeping my feet flat and an even distribution of weight when I'm pushing against the ground. Same thing in my golf swing, and I didn't know that until I started taking some lessons, and so it translates really well. And so, in here, like, I don't really care how much I clean, right? But if I can keep my feet flat to the ground, that's going to translate really well to the golf game. Right. So that's kind of a different way to think about it. And golf is just super fun to me, right? I love to go out with my buddies and I get to play, for 4 or 5 hours a day.
I'm terrible at golf.
Yeah, it's a cruel game, man. It's like Olympic weightlifting, right? We've talked about that analogy before. But anyway, going back to that, I think you just have to have an understanding of, what are you really trying to accomplish here? And just be really honest with yourself. You don't have to be the best CrossFitter in the world by any means.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm trying to be the best dad that I can to my kids.
Yeah.
And actually, I just got a text from my sister.
Uh-huh.
My niece was born.
Congratulations.
So I'm an uncle now.
Uncle Monroe, is this the first one?
Isabel Ray Linehan.
Wow. Yeah. So guys, listen to that. We're live right now, and Monroe Miller, not only a great father, but is about to be a great uncle as well.
Right. Best uncle ever.
Funkle Monroe. Fun uncle. We'll go with that. That's fantastic, man. Congratulations.
Thanks.
How's that feel?
It's cool.
Yeah. I get to kind of officially be an uncle on June 26th when I get married. So... Sydney has nieces, not technically nieces to me yet, but feels good as, man. Being an uncle's awesome.
Uncle-in-law?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, right? But being an uncle's awesome, man. It's like you get to do all of the fun stuff with as minimal responsibility as possible, right? So it's super fun, man. You're going to have a good time doing all that stuff, man. So you mentioned that you do all this stuff to basically be the best father that you can be. Is there any other way or stuff that you're thinking about, training versus competing within the gym right now, dude?
I think we covered a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, it's just working out. Like, and I know we said, hey, training versus competing, and that's like what this podcast is, but we're just working out, It's like when people are like, oh, what's your training today? It's like,
I think
I'm training for life, but I'm just kind of like getting a workout in.
Yeah.
And that's the longer, or the more I've gone away from being serious about it as a sport, the more it's just like, dude, we're just getting sweaty and having fun. Like,
yeah. And I think, man, if you can really harness that, if you're like me, right? And there was a few months over the summer where I was really not happy within the gym. And that was just because I didn't really understand what I was trying to accomplish and what I was trying to do. Wasn't really honest with myself. Wanted to put more time into it, and it was like, for what? Mm-hmm. To have a 225 snatch, does that help me get to be a better IT recruiter, dad, or husband? Like, absolutely not. Not really, right? So just be really honest with yourself within all that, guys. Okay, so just to recap all this, guys, once a week, 100% when you come into the gym. Maybe you feel it, maybe you plan that day. I think that's going to be completely up to you as far as that goes. Set aside time to practice. We talked about the EMOM, right? Yeah. I also think there's opportunities within certain workouts where you look ahead of the time and maybe you see something that you don't like, right? Like pistols, for example, right? For me, where it's like you can scale the reps on that so that you can focus on moving really well within your pistols, whether you take 15 down to 10 or 5 or so on and so forth, or maybe you see a pull-up and you're just like, okay, I'm going to go 70% effort today so I can really focus on moving well in my kipping pull-ups today, whatever that may be, right? Now, the thing that you have to keep in mind when you end up doing something like that is just you have to dial back the gas pedal when you do that. It's like instead of 100%, you need to go 70% or 60% or something like that to make sure that you have some energy there for that high-skill movement that you struggle with. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think that, we talked, was it on the podcast? We're talking about working out every day?
Maybe.
Or maybe I did a video on it last week, but...
It was the video. If you guys haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe
on YouTube. Yeah, it was, it was like, should you train every day? And, I don't think there's any problem with if you want to work out every day, that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe if you come in today and I got almost four rounds on today's workout. If I did the same workout and deliberately tried to get 2 rounds, that could be like a recovery day, and I'm really just, all I'm doing is focus on my breathing. Hey, I'm gonna do nasal breathing the whole time. Really want to make it harder without pushing yourself that hard?
Close your mouth.
Yep. Yeah. So, there's ways that you can, force yourself if you have an issue with it. But I think just being aware, and I think when you first start CrossFit especially, the intensity piece is you have to figure out how to kind of focus and control that intensity and be able to push yourself really hard but stay very calm.
Yeah.
And I think that takes some time to learn that.
Yep, absolutely. You guys can also come in outside of class, and you guys can practice within that scheme. Again, we talked about a 10-minute EMOM that you guys can come in here and do. Or, as Monroe said, you don't need a clock, and you're just going to come in here and kind of do it by feel. Make sure you give yourself sufficient rest time to be able to do that. Monroe, do we offer one-on-one coaching?
We do. Yeah, one-on-one is the best place to learn how to do something, in my opinion. I think that the class is the best place to get better once you know what you're doing, because you do get that push from everybody else. But if there's a skill or something you need to work on, the best place is one-on-one. So
yeah, agreed. And those one-on-one, those stretch from doing actual one-on-one skill sessions to, we talked about it before, right? If you guys need to chat with with any of us just about what you're trying to accomplish within the gym and set up your goal-related stuff, shoot us an email.
Yeah,
where can they find you on email, brother?
My email is monroe@verity.training.
Awesome, dude. Well, cool. Let's go closing thoughts here, man. This has been good content so far.
Yeah.
What you got?
Closing thoughts. Don't take it so seriously. I feel like that's my closing thought every week. Don't take it so seriously. It's not, we're just working out, fitness, friends, and fun. That's what it's about.
Yeah, agreed. I'm just going to say, just understand why you're in here and just be really okay with who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that is easier said than done. I struggled with that in the past, but if you guys need to be able to identify what that is and everything like that, come talk to us. We love talking to people. That's our business here, and that's what we love to do, man.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks so much for stopping by. This is the Full Send Podcast.